far-reaching impact. For the first time in 5 years, the UN has managed to get aid into the Somali capital, Mogadishu. A cargo plane brought in over 30 tons of supplies, including blankets and sleeping mats. Mogadishu has been largely abandoned by the Shabaab Islamist militia, whose presence had made aid agencies access to famine-affected parts of the Horn of Africa, seen here in the map on red, more difficult. Well, we're joined live now from the Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya by Jeremy Hobbs, who's the Executive Director of Oxfam International. Jeremy Hobbs, how much are you now able to do for the people of Mogadishu?
Well, Michelle, quite a lot actually. We're currently supporting around about 300,000 people through our partners in terms of water supply and sanitation. And we're reaching something like 3,000 malnourished children a week with nutritional feeding programs. So it is possible, if you have intelligent partnerships with local organizations on the ground, to operate in Somalia.
But as far as you're aware, people are still moving out of Mogadishu and the surrounding area and towards camps like Dadaab, where you are?
Yes, they are. I mean, this vast camp is getting bigger every day. Around about 1,300 people, 1,500 people are coming into the registration centres. And so Oxfam, like a lot of other agencies, is really pushing for a scale-up in the response, because whatever we're able to do in Somalia, it's not going to prevent some of the movement of people, which is often about movement from famine and drought as much as it is from conflict.
So you're not getting the response that you would wish for from donor governments?
Well, no, I think the donor governments have started to pick up, but there's still an $800 million gap on the UN target. So obviously that needs to be addressed. And of course, the money that's already been pledged needs to be actually put into action if we're going to provide the services that these people so desperately need.
Tell me something. When all of this crisis began, there was a lot of talk about how it could have been avoided if the system was in place to get aid in when the first signals of a prospective famine started to emerge. Is that just not possible in the system we have at the moment, which is more about responding to emergencies?
Well, I think that's right. Clearly, there's massive underinvestment in pastoralists, small-scale agriculture, but also there hasn't been enough done to actually make sure that people have the food stocks and the resilience mechanisms they need to avoid these mass exoduses. I mean, some of the people I've met this morning have been walking for 15, 20 days with their children. I mean, there's some pretty shocking stories here, and it really beggars belief that we can't get ourselves better organized in terms of both our immediate aid response, but also our long-term development assistance, when we know these problems are around for years and years. We knew what was happening in 2008 when food prices went through the roof. We've seen famines in other parts of Africa, and this one has been in the waiting for quite some time.
So is it really the case that what you call better organisation could have made a real difference? I mean, the food stocks are out there. Is it just the case that they weren't deployed fast enough and well enough?
Well, it's partly that, but it's partly the political will to actually pay attention to it and to see it as a serious problem. And unfortunately, it's the short-termism that we often see in international affairs is such that people react when there's a crisis. And we need to do better than that.
Okay, Jeremy Hobbs, thanks very much for joining us today from the Dadaab camp in Kenya. And there's lots more of the BBC's coverage of the situation in the Horn of Africa.